Harry, since you coined the bingo card and you put some of these names on it, take us through what you think the committee is deliberating this weekend.
Well, so I think first and foremost, and I suggested this on bingo, every bingo card should have in the center Donald Trump. It's near inconceivable to me that they would make a referral or more, and we know already that they're going to make at least one, and it not be Trump. It's really the thrust of what they've been going toward for several months. And notice who the subcommittee is that's going to be carrying the water as far as recommendations go. Raskin, Schiff, Cheney, Lofgren. Those are four members who I think will not hesitate to pull the trigger on Trump. As to these others, Nicole, they are ones for whom, even if they didn't cooperate, the part that we saw in front of us in the series of hearings really do give ample evidence of criminal exposure. I'm eager, I hate to be eager about criminal liability, but Mark Meadows, I think, has really skated so far, and it would be very just if he were in the mix. Finally, we've only seen, the tip of the iceberg, so there's all kinds of things that happen behind the scenes that could engender referrals, either process-wise or to the DOJ, for example. Did Ordonado lie to them? Would that be a referral for that? Even potentially the members of Congress, but probably to the Ethics Committee. But I see Trump as being in the center of all bingo cards, a sort of automatic for all.
Yeah, and Luke, I understand what Harry's saying in this idea that we're eager to see what the committee does, because it's not just a question of the law and criminality, right? This committee has to make a decision about where their maximum impact lies. And there's already been some great reporting from your news organization and others that there's at least a discussion, debate may be too strong of a word, about whether to keep all of the final sort of act focused on Trump or whether to expand it to others. What is your sense of where those conversations stand among committee members?
Right. Well, we know that the subcommittee, so to speak, is preparing their recommendations right now. They haven't made them yet to the full committee. There'll be sort of three buckets that they're going to present to the rest of the body. The first is anybody they believe committed a criminal offense as part of the underlying crime. Those people we just mentioned, Donald Trump, John Eastman in particular, they've already argued in court that both of them committed federal felonies. So those are pretty obvious ones right there. The second is anyone they believe obstructed justice or interfered with the investigation. And now that could be those calls that we heard to Cassidy Hutchinson, where people were attempting to influence her testimony. That could be part of it. It could be people who lied to the committee or misled the committee. And then the third is what to do about the members of Congress, those five Republicans, including Kevin McCarthy, and whether they should be referred out to justice or referred internally to the Ethics Committee, or perhaps do nothing at all. And there's a lot of debate among the members themselves about that. There's some who believe that Congress is a self-policing body and should handle its own matters internally. So there's a lot of debate and discussion. It may well be that the subcommittee sort of gives options to the rest of the committee, and then we see a sort of formal action taken later this month, closer to Christmas. So this will be something that they discuss for a long time, but they want to make sure that whatever they do has the facts and the law behind it and is not seen as a political reach.
And Luke, just so we understand, is this weekend's meeting just to deal with this specific set of final consensus decisions about, they've decided that there will be criminal referrals, and now what the committee has to agree to is for whom and how many?
Well, so one thing about this committee is they actually don't really vote behind closed doors. So they achieve their decisions mostly by consensus. So, when Benny Thompson came out and said, there's a general understanding that we're going to do criminal referrals, but we haven't voted yet. That's him explaining that they've arrived at this decision internally without a formal vote. And so I think it will be somewhat like that on Sunday, where there's discussion. If there's anything that's seen as too far afield and somebody has a real problem with it, that might get tossed out. And it will be a discussion and a give and take before there is any formal vote later this month.
John Heilemann, some of the members of the committee have worked hard in their appearances, at least on this show, to state and restate that a criminal we're not a criminal body. It doesn't mean anything. I've never bought that. I think Congress referred Roger Clemens to prosecution. I mean, I think it exists because it is more than meaningless. And I think in this investigation in particular, where it is clear that the Congressional Committee was ahead of in terms of bringing people in and definitely ahead of putting into the public arena, DOJ may never do that, the evidence that had been gathered, I think these could have, if not a prosecutorial significance, a real impact on the public pressure to hold some of these people accountable. What is your sense, if you agree about the assessment of the importance, about who they will refer? What would you guess?
Well, I think it's important, Nicole, and hello, happy Friday. I think it's important that the committee. I think it's important that the committee get to this, because I do think this has been driving towards this, and the notion that was floated earlier, if you recall, in the investigation at various times by various members, that maybe they wouldn't make criminal referrals at all, and that there was some division on the committee about that months ago. I think a lot of that seemed at the time faintly ludicrous to me, especially as we started to see more and more of the evidence. So I'm glad that now that the committee has come together and decided that referrals are going to happen, at least as Harry said, at least one. It seems like an important, given what we've seen, given what seems to many of us, and I always say I'm not a lawyer, nor do I even play one on TV, but like what seems like clear evidence of criminality on the part of multiple people. It's great. It's important that the committee bring its work to conclusion here with this by taking this final step. The question I don't know the answer to, Nicole, is I think in some ways all precedent doesn't matter here in some sense related to what the past criminal referrals out of Congress have led to in the Department of Justice. There's never been a case like this before. And so that you could argue that goes in both directions, or in either direction, I would say. I don't have any idea, and maybe Harry has a better idea, and other lawyers who are veterans of the DOJ have a better idea, whether these referrals will in fact have a prosecutorial impact or not. It's clear that the committee's investigation has fueled things at the DOJ level. It's clear that the things that we saw this summer pushed the DOJ in terms of public pressure and just in terms of professional pressure in a way to get going on, to pick up its pace and get going on some of the investigations that they were undertaking under their own auspices, the one that do have clear potential criminal legal implications. But I don't know at this moment as we sit here whether Merrick Garland, who ultimately will have to make the decision probably in all these cases himself, whether Merrick Garland is going to be moved by either what the committee, the referrals that come out of the committee, or by the extent of the potential public pressure. He has seemed to be, to this day, pretty much immune to all of that. Very, very driven by the law, very driven by propriety, very driven by trying to make sure the DOJ is not seen as a political institution, but not so far given any evidence that there's not really any evidence out there that he's been driven by popular opinion, by political pressure, or when it comes to at least to handing out indictments, so far by what the committee says, doesn't say, does or doesn't do. I believe that we all are in a little bit of suspended animation and suspense about that question and uncertainty.